Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. 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 Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Amuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Te Vasudev. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Many thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk on the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse 1. So I will just chant each word, and then of course we will can repeat after me 3 times. First, of course, let me chant the verse, chapter 5, which is called Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. So, Arjuna, Uvacha, Sannyasam, Karmanam, Krishna, Punar, Yogam, Cha Samsasi, Yach, Chreya, Etayor Ekam, Tan me Brul, Sunischita. Arjuna Uvacha, Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna, Punar Yogam Cha Samsasi, Yachreya Etayor Ekam, Tanme Bruhi Sunichitam. Arjuna Uvacha, Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna, Punar Yogam Cha Samsasi, Yachreya Etayor Ekam, Tanme Bruhi Sunichitam. Arjuna Uvacha, Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna, Punar Yogam Cha Samsasi, Yachreya Etayor Ekam, Tanme Bruhi Sunichitam. Arjuna Uvacha, Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna, punaryogam cha samsasi yachreya etayorekam tanme bruhi sunichitam. Arjuna uvacha sannyasam karmanam Krishna punaryogam cha samsasi yachreya etayorekam tanme bruhi sunichitam. Mataji? Can try. Arjuna uvacha sannyasam karmanam Krishna punaryogam cha samsasi yachreya etayorekam tanme bruhi sunichitam. Arjuna uvacha, Arjuna said, sannyasam, renunciation, karmanam, of all activities, Krishna, O Krishna, punah, again, yogam, devotional service, cha, also, samsasi, you are praising, yat, which, shreya, is more beneficial, etayo, of these two, ekam, one, tat, that, me, unto me, bruhi, please tell, sunichitam, definitely. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. Arjuna said, O Krishna, first of all you ask me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? Purport. In this 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that work in devotional service is better than dry mental speculation. Devotional service is easier than the later because, being transcendental in nature, it frees one from reaction. In the 2nd chapter, preliminary knowledge of the soul and its entanglement in the material body were explained. How to get out of this material engagement or devotional service was also explained therein. In the 3rd chapter, it was explained that a person who is situated on the platform of knowledge no longer has any duties to perform. And in the 4th chapter, the Lord told Arjuna that all kinds of sacrificial work culminate in knowledge. However, at the end of the 4th chapter, the Lord advised Arjuna to wake up and fight, being situated in perfect knowledge. Therefore, by simultaneously stressing the importance of both work in devotion and inaction in knowledge, Krishna has perplexed Arjuna and confused his determination. Arjuna understands that renunciation in knowledge involves cessation of all kinds of work performed as sense activities. But if one performs work in devotional service, then how is work stopped? In other words, he thinks that sannyasa or renunciation in knowledge should be altogether free from all kinds of activities because work and renunciation appear to him to be incompatible. He appears not to have understood that work in full knowledge is non-reactive and is therefore the same as inaction. He inquires therefore whether he should cease work altogether or work with full knowledge. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Patakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare. So let me read the translation again. And this particular verse is the beginning of a new chapter, chapter 5, talking about Karma Yoga. This whole verse is to understand the difference between renunciation and Karma Yoga. What is the difference? So Arjuna basically is in a confused state. As it's mentioned in the purport also, there were various things told by Krishna, and at the end of the 4th chapter, Krishna tells him, now you forget everything, you can go and fight. So Krishna, obviously he is fully aware, but for people like you and me, later in, when in this material life in Kali Yuga, when we are going through all kinds of bewilderment day in and day out, he basically wants to make us aware by asking this. Maybe it sounds a silly question, but he is telling Krishna, what is this difference now? He's saying, Arjuna said, oh Krishna, first of all you ask me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? So he wants to really understand what is better. And so if you look at the definition of sannyasa, what is sannyasa here is, renunciation involves giving up worldly attachments and desires, often associated with the cessation of all material activities. So that is what is defined as renunciation. But in our Vaishnava tradition, even Srila Prabhupada said, renunciation is not just giving up all activities, but about redirecting one's focus towards spiritual pursuits. That is more like a renunciation in our day-to-day life. It's not like what is being talked about from a purely definition perspective. And he emphasizes, Srila Prabhupada also emphasizes, that the true renunciation is not about abandoning our duties, but performing them without attachment to the results. So that is what is more like renunciation. So simply said, you can always say that, it sounds very easy that you're performing your duties and you're not attached to the results of your duties, because we always do something based on achieving something and we get attached to that results. But the fact, what happens is that if we get attached to the results, then we'll become either very happy or we'll become very sad. And that is what we don't want, and that is what Krishna always says. How can you keep your mind stable in such a way that you are not affected even when you are very happy or if you are very sad? So can you bring about the right balance in your life and not get attached to any activity that you do? So for example, Mataji is doing flower seva. So she cannot get attached to that, because suppose one day she doesn't get it, she shouldn't feel sad about it. And just because she's got it, she shouldn't be too happy about it also. She should look, the good thing is whatever she is doing, she is doing it in the service of the Lord. She is not doing just because she has to go for a marriage and she has to wear that garland. But any activity that you do, anything that you have, if you can focus it towards Krishna, what happens is that if there is a result which is detrimental to you, you will not get affected by it, because you are doing it for Krishna and you feel that Krishna has done it for you. Krishna has ensured that you got that particular result to get that particular emotion, so that you are detached from that particular activity. So that is what Prabhupada also says, that this is what he is talking about as renunciation. It's not completely giving up on activities, but seeing that if you do an activity, try to focus it on Krishna, and secondly, see that you are not attached to the results of those activities. Now, what is Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga is the practice of performing actions without attachment to the outcome. So one thing which I talked about was renunciation. The second thing is about Karma Yoga is that this practice of performing action without attachment to their outcomes, which is what I spoke about, often with the intention of pleasing the divine. So the end result should be how you can please the divine, like what Mataji is doing, the garlands for her. And from a Vaishnava perspective, when you say that was the definition, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one of our gurus, and Srila Prabhupada both highlight that Karma Yoga is a means to spiritual growth. So that is the way how you can grow spiritually, by dedicating one's actions to Krishna. This approach once always is engaged in worldly activities while cultivating spiritual awareness. So we cannot run away from the fact that we have to go through our day-to-day worldly activities, but how can we get connected spiritually also is by doing those small activities that you're doing, the sevas that you do, like Prabhuji organizes all of these things, the lectures and everything. Why? At the end of the day, he feels that by listening to the Bhagavad Gita, by listening to the Bhagavatam, he himself gets purified, the speaker gets purified, as well as the people who listen also gets purified. It may maybe sound heavy, but each lecture, has some message for you in some way or the other that you have undergo in your day-to-day life. How that can be, the more you listen to it, the more often you listen to it, the same verse may sound completely different. For example, if I read the Bhagavad Gita 20 years back to what I currently read the Bhagavad Gita, there is a complete difference because I have experienced certain aspects and I have realized, yes, what is being said is true. At that time, I would have thought, what is this? I don't really understand. So that is what it is. The day more you get affected or experience certain activities, and unfortunately in our material life, only when you are affected negatively. If you get a lot of happiness, don't think about Krishna or you don't think about what's happening around you. But the moment you get some disease, the moment somebody maybe is angry with you or has said something to you or you are in deep distress, then you think of why it's happening to me, what have I done wrong, why should this happen to me, and then you start questioning things. And on the same verse, if you see, there are various commentaries by Prabhupada himself. He's been very practical about it. He said that work in devotional service, because here Arjuna is asking the difference, which is better. So Prabhupada explains that work in devotional service is superior to dry mental speculation because it frees one from reaction. So any devotional service will free you from any reaction that you have, which is what normally in our English sense people talk of karma, is talk of reaction. You have got some reaction from your previous birth, from this birth and all, and that is what is affecting you. Whereas what Prabhupada said, that the more you engross yourself in devotional service, you will be free from any kind of reaction. And the true renunciation is not about ceasing all activities. True renunciation doesn't mean that, I leave everything and go into the forest, but about performing them with lot of devotion. So any activity that you do, if you perform with devotion and in a way, as you said, you are surrendering the results to Krishna, you are renunciating yourself from all those things around you. So that is called renunciation, which is basically giving up certain things. What you are trying to give up is the emotional attachment, trying to bring about detachment, and you are not really affected by whatever results happen, good or bad. Easier said than done, because whatever that we do, you always have a motivation of achieving something. So even if you look at Krishna consciousness, the way we are tuned, we say that, okay, now I am chanting 4 rounds, then I will chant 8 rounds, then I will chant 16 rounds, then I will chant 32 rounds. So you are putting some count and target. But the whole idea is, why you are chanting? The chanting is to bring about the love for Krishna. That means that automatically, the more you chant, the more you get attracted to Krishna and his pastimes and his activities, and it becomes second nature to you. So you don't need to count, because it's like you like an ice cream. You keep on eating it, wanting to eat more and more and more till you are full, So like that, if you can bring that taste, what they call as the taste in chanting, the more you chant, then you will not count. The count becomes irrelevant, because you get a lot of pleasure out of chanting. Today you are not getting a pleasure out of chanting. You are doing it like a task. Today I have to finish 16 rounds, something like that. If you go with that purpose and with that inattention or a lot of things that it's like scoring 100 marks out of 100, then, maybe at the end of the day you say that, I promised my guru that I will chant 16 rounds, I have done it. But you have to ask yourself, how honest have you been with that? Because he wanted you to get a taste of this particular Mahamantra, so that, the more you chant, the more attractive it becomes and the count becomes irrelevant. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one of our gurus also, his emphasis is on selfless action. He says that he stresses the importance of selfless action as a means to achieve the spiritual growth. He encouraged devotees to engage in activities that serve the divine, aligning with the principles of Karma Yoga. So again, it is in a different way, he is told the same thing. Similarly, Sridhar Swami, one of the other acharyas, he said he wants to have a balance between action and inaction. So it often highlights the need for a right balance between action and not doing something. True spiritual goal, according to him, involves understanding how to engage in activities without become entangled in their outcomes. So finally, it is how can you get detached from the outcome of the actions that you're performing? That is should be your goal, and that is the true form of renunciation. It's not just giving up. Today I say that no, I will not have this kind of food, or I'm completely going away from my family and all those things. No, the more you engage yourself in devotional service, the more you will feel the difference when you do an activity that you are not affected by the results of it, which is extreme happiness or extreme misery. And once you can come to that stage, which is the most difficult part, which happens with all the things that you do by chanting, and you cannot run away from the material aspects. And the younger you are, the more in today's world, the kind of information that is available around you, all those relationships that you have, all of that in some way or the other is going to affect you negatively, and because of that only you try to look at coming to Krishna and asking, oh please deliver me from all of this misery. And it's not that you say that deliver me from all this happiness. No, you always say that deliver me from all these miseries. And that is the most important thing, that if you can, therefore, in each of your activity that you do, can detach yourself from the results of what is going to happen, knowing that this is what it is, then you can get tuned more and more towards coming to a stage where your mind then gets more focused and your relationship with Krishna builds up, and you are able to overcome most of your obstacles in your day-to-day life, which normally it is so difficult for you. Similarly, of course, one of the other acharyas, not part of our philosophy, Ramanujacharya, who talked about Vishishta Advaita philosophy, he also always emphasizes the importance of devotion and selfless actions. He says that actions should be performed with the intention of pleasing the divine, always aligning with the principles of Karma Yoga. And then, if you look at in the Chaitanya Charitamrita also, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emphasizes the importance of devotion and selfless action again there. He says that chanting the holy names and engaging in devotional service reflects the principles of Karma Yoga, where actions are performed with the intention of pleasing Krishna. So this is the same thing which chapter 5 will go through all the verses, which is the first verse. It talks always about it encourages performing duties without attachment. So that you should keep totally in your mind. How can you, use this in your day-to-day life? If you look at it, there are 4 or 5 points. How can you, first one is detachment in work. You should apply the principle of Karma Yoga by performing your duties without attachment to the outcome. So this in a way will help you in your day-to-day job. If you have a job that you do, it will help you in reducing stress and increasing satisfaction in your work, because obviously you have targets that you have to meet in your company and all that, and you will put in your heart wholehearted efforts to it. Obviously, this verse says that anything that you do it in the service of Krishna. But now you're thinking that, okay, I'm earning money, firstly, which is important, but how can I can finally use that in the service of Krishna? Therefore, I'll put in all my efforts. Krishna will also enable you, but you will always have some kind of reactions there with, your bosses, colleagues and all that. If you are able to navigate through that, looking at implementing this principle, then you will be able to work peacefully and without stress. Otherwise, you will always have stress at work. Secondly is mindfulness and meditation. Regular mindfulness and meditation practice can help cultivate the detachment and equanimity, where your mind is balanced between happiness and distress. You do this meditation practice, which is part of the Ashtanga Yoga itself, which is mentioned in the further chapters. But that practically, if you do all of that, will also create some kind of focus for your mind. These kinds of meditation activities brings about a focus in your mind, which will also help you to chant peacefully and with lot of dedication. Thirdly, of course, service to others. You should engage in selfless service to others, recognizing the divine presence in all beings. Most difficult. If you don't like somebody, you will not want to serve them. But this is what is said, that don't look at all of that. Just look that, think that you are serving finally a devotee of Krishna or a soul where Krishna is there. Maybe someday that person will get, awakened, and try to do that, with lot of dedication. This will foster some kind of compassion and empathy within you. So you will be able to therefore identify somebody going through why he said what he said, and therefore keep away those negative emotions from your mind. Obviously, what happens is the more you are around positive people, you will feel the sense of positivity. The more you are around negative people, you will feel that sense of negativity also. And that is not easy. So you can also notice that, for example, at least I noticed in India and all those places, when we go to hospitals, you feel this kind of negative energy. Why? Because of the fact that everybody is distressed there, and those vibes come and affect you in some way. Whereas if you come to places like Simhachalam, temple like that, there it is a different kind of energy that is there in the room. Obviously, there also people are under distress in some way, but then they have surrendered, or they are asking Krishna or Lord Nrsimhadev to overcome these obstacles, and there'll be of course devotees there who bring about this positive energy that will somehow soothe your mind. You will feel that effect when you are within the temple. This energy is there. Fourthly, spiritual growth. You should use all your daily activities as opportunity for spiritual growth by dedicating them to a higher purpose, which is aligning with the teachings of Karma Yoga. What is this higher purpose? Is finally you're trying to build this relationship with Krishna, increasing your love for Krishna. That's why you're doing all of these services. And then you have to balance your action and inaction. So you should strive for the right balance between engaging in necessary action and maintaining your inner peace, and detachment, reflecting the teachings of sannyasa and karma yoga. So you should be able to find the right balance wherein you can bring in this renunciation in your day-to-day life. If you integrate these activities in your daily life, you can achieve a deeper sense of purpose and spiritual fulfillment, aligning with whatever Krishna said in the first verse itself, so which Arjuna is asking. So what, as I said, if I look at certain examples, if you want to decide with pursuing a career or taking a break for personal development, how each path aligns with your values and spiritual goals. Sometimes these kinds of confusions come in your life, like Arjuna had this confusion today. He is saying that which is better? What should I do? Work with devotion, or do the other aspects? So something like that in your life also, you'll always come across certain points in life where you have to make certain decisions. So if you can, at least having come to Krishna consciousness, knowing the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, if you can use that for you to take the right path, which will be in alignment with your being able to follow devotional service, then take that decision compared to a more attractive option according to you. So these two options, that difference, you need to therefore be able to take. And then if you say detachment from outcomes, in personal relationships, you should engage with others without expecting specific outcomes. You should focus rather on the quality of interaction. Easier said than done, because what happens is whenever you love somebody, or at least you become friends with somebody, love is different aspect. When you become friends with somebody, what happens is that inevitably it builds up certain expectations from that person. So tomorrow Prabhuji, I've been interacting with him, it's always been good, I've helped him in certain ways, and one day I ask him something, he doesn't respond in the right manner. So immediately you get affected, because what happens, your expectations about that person has increased. But if you are therefore, therefore, if you can therefore detach yourself from this outcomes, or that if you already expect that this could happen, and you are able to somehow keep yourself away from it, then your mind will not get affected. So these are, in a way, small things that you do in life, which says that how can you be detached to certain relationships. Obviously, you should need to do your duty with your mother, sister, all of them, and train your mind in such a way that something happens wherein you were expecting something and it happened the other way, it shouldn't affect you. So that is what it looks at. And then when you talk of selfless service, you should participate in community service, like in certain projects in the temple, and help colleagues or other people without seeking recognition. You shouldn't do it because somebody tomorrow will say, oh, you did a great job. Do it with your own purpose, own desires, everything will, with the fact that you don't need any recognition. It is for your nourishing your inner self. That is what you're doing. and try to connect, through meditation with your inner self, and therefore find peace amidst life's ups and downs, which will always be there. And you should always stay balanced in dualities. What I mean by that is successes and setbacks, they are opportunities for both growth, maintaining a balanced perspective regardless of external circumstances. So can you find that right, balance between setbacks as well as successes, and not get affected by it very much? You will definitely get affected. Any success motivates you to do more. Any setback pulls you back. So if you can take the lessons from success, which will always come, because it's like a weather. In even the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has said it's like a weather. Sometimes it will be cold, sometimes it will be warm. Sometimes there'll be spring, sometimes there'll be winter. In all of that, you should know that today there is winter, tomorrow there'll be summer again. So be aware of that. Be conscious of this aspect when you do certain things. And of course, there is something called as unity of paths. Different paths lead to the same spiritual destination. So there will be various different paths for you. You have selected a particular path, maybe through ISKCON, then stick to that path. Don't try to jump from one to the other. Of course, in the initial stages of your journey, you may do that because you may want to first experience certain things, want to understand the depth of a particular philosophy, particular practice, and then you may want to fully dedicate yourself in that particular path if you find that it is right for you according to your inner self. But if you don't, then obviously you are more than free to go to a certain different path. But once you have aligned yourself to a particular path here in Krishna consciousness, then put your heart and soul into it, because the more you try to jump to various philosophies, it will only confuse you more and more. This is what you should try to avoid in your day-to-day life. Because there are various practices, various philosophies which are there in today's world, and because in Kali Yuga what happens is most of the people they look for easy ways. They don't want to do certain austerities, maybe fasting or certain other aspects. They look at what is convenient for them. They want to have the maximum of material life, but they don't want to accept the miseries that come with the material life. So then they talk of spirituality. They say that, oh, I am a very spiritual person, let me do this and that. But do understand that, anything that you do, whether you do an exercise, you do certain other things, there's one statement in English, no gain without pain. So without any pain, you will not get any gain. And that pain could be different for different people. So whatever you do to please Krishna, whatever hard work that you do, whatever pain that you encounter for Krishna, you will be definitely rewarded for it. So that should be your final goal, that having dedicated yourself to a particular philosophy, stick to it, try to find more about it, and then grow from there rather than jumping from one different philosophies to the other. So, and Prabhupada also has said that practically speaking, Karma Yoga, which is work with devotion, is more practical for most people compared to Karma Sannyasa, because it allows them to be engaged in worldly activities while cultivating spiritual awareness. Whereas Karma Sannyasa, renunciation of the actions, is seen as more suitable for those who are more advanced in spiritual life and can fully dedicate themselves to devotional service. So he therefore encourages devotees to engage in activities that promote Krishna consciousness, and how you can apply this Karma Yoga in your daily life. This includes, of course, chanting, distributing spiritual literature, which a lot of people do, and participating community service with devotional mindsets. So these are certain aspects, which you can think about. So and then I would like to also talk about how Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, for example, he wanted to kind of address the role of intellectual pursuits in karma sannyas, and for that he has told to focus on bhakti, his emphasis is on devotion over intellectualism. So he stresses the importance of devotion as a primary means to achieve spiritual goal. Intellectual pursuits are seen as secondary to the cultivation of love and devotion for Krishna. So you do your intellectual pursuits, but that should be secondary. The first priority for you is to firstly try to see how you can evolve in Krishna consciousness and to promote Krishna consciousness, like preaching and spreading devotional literature, rather than solely focusing on intellectual debates or philosophical discussions. Don't do that. Do like what you did, Prabhu, going and distributing books. That is more, then of course you need to engage in certain discussions to understand certain philosophical aspects from your spiritual guru or certain books or lectures that you listen to. And you should also, he has, warned against speculation. He was critical of Mayavad philosophy, which he saw as a form of intellectual speculation that often led to misconceptions about the ultimate reality. He emphasized the need to understand scriptures through the lens of devotion rather than mere intellectual analysis. So, most important is how you can devote yourself, in the service. Then I would like to also talk about how the Bhagavatam, Srimad-Bhagavatam, talks about these particular aspects. What can you take from Srimad-Bhagavatam in respect to this particular verse, 5.1? There is one section, the practical applications, of course, we spoke about, but one of the things we talked about is detachment and liberation. So in Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Narad Muni, he emphasized the need to transcend material attachments. This is reflected, if you have read that, in his conversation with Vyasadeva, where he questions the satisfaction derived from identifying with the body or mind. And that is what Krishna has also spoken about. And if you remember, Vyasadeva, after of course he wrote the Mahabharata, he was not really satisfied internally. There was something, biting him. And therefore then he went to Narad. Narad then told him that, look, what you have done is, obviously you have written the Mahabharata, but you're not getting this sense of internal satisfaction, which we also feel. There's something lacking. It's because you have not glorified Krishna. You have not glorified, the pastimes of Krishna. And if you start doing that, if you start writing the Bhagavatam in that way, when he wrote that, then he got the final, feeling of satisfaction. And he felt, that, okay, he has done something. Because with that, writing of that, he got that feeling of contentment which he was not getting. And as I mentioned here, Narada's purpose of knowledge, of course, Narada's guidance in others suggested Vyasadeva's dissatisfaction stems from insufficient emphasis on devotional service in his writings. This underscores the idea that knowledge should be used to cultivate devotion rather than mere intellectual satisfaction. So once he got away from that, he got that satisfaction. And how to get the balance between action and inaction. Narada's teaching implies that true spiritual growth involves a balance between understanding one's true nature and engaging in activities that promote spiritual awareness. So this is the right balance, which is also mentioned by Krishna here. And finally, when you look at devotional service as the ultimate goal, Narada emphasizes the importance of devotional service as the ultimate goal of spiritual life. This is reflected in his encouragement to Vyasadeva to focus on the science of devotional service. So this is what even Narada did. So both Narada's instructions to Vyasadeva and the theme of the Bhagavad Gita chapter 5 emphasize the importance of detachment, selfless action, and devotion as a means to achieve spiritual growth and liberation. And in Bhagavad Gita chapter 5, of course, when we spoke about spiritual awareness, the Bhagavatam itself illustrates renunciation through stories of devotees who have engaged in selfless service. For example, the story of Priyavrat. shows how one can remain renounced while fulfilling worldly responsibilities, using everything in the service of Krishna. So Priyavrata is one of the examples from the Bhagavatam who did the same thing. He did his activities with lot of devotion, and and still remained detached from his activities that he did. Of course, you have, for example, devotion to the Supreme Lord stories of Prahlad Maharaj. Of course, he is very much here. He demonstrated how devotion can lead to spiritual growth and liberation, mirroring the devotion shown between Arjuna towards Krishna. So this is also, of course, exhibited in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. And that finally, again, you have examples like Prahlad, Dhruv Maharaj, all of them, they show how one can, by devotion, still be detached, because they were, in a way, rulers, and Dhruv Maharaj and all were rulers of his kingdom. With a lot of opulence, everything was there for him, but he didn't lose his focus of being devoted to Krishna and doing his service towards Krishna and maintaining detachment. Of course, we can always say that in today's life, how can we take that example of Prahlad Maharaj or Dhruv Maharaj, who were really much above different levels? But okay, let's forget them. Let's look at Lord Chaitanya. Let's look at Prabhupada. Let's look at the recent examples, not even lower than 100 years. How they, even in spite of the fact that if you look at Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was very much engaged in grihastha activities. He had children with children. He used to do his work daily, but he used to get up early in the morning and do all his devotional activities, write all his bhajans, and in his day-to-day life also, he still remained connected to Krishna one way or the other. So we don't need to look far ahead, far back at Dhruv Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj. Just look at the recent examples, maybe not in our generation, some years back, when Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was there, before that Bhakti Vinod Thakur was there, and then Prabhupada at the end, who came in, as a godsend, and at a very old age, he started actually propagating Krishna consciousness by going alone to New York, place like New York, and there were people who were hippies and all, who had no clue about what is Krishna consciousness, what is Gita. They were pretty much engrossed in looking at the ultimate happiness of drugs and getting to that level. So Krishna, and somehow Prabhupada could get them attracted to some kind of a very strange philosophy for them, the Bhagavad Gita, Sanskrit and all of that. And today you see where it has led. Today we are blessed that in a place like Germany, in Jandelsbrunn, you have a temple like Narsingh Bhagwan temple, and you are listening to the Bhagavad Gita here today. It was surely purely because of the seeds of devotion that Prabhupada at that age, took that risk and went to the West, and through that he could therefore propagate this philosophy to each and every soul who had this feeling, or I should say this fire within their heart, this curiosity about asking questions like why I am here in this world. And once you ask that question, then you look at the next stage of what you need to do, what is the soul, why soul is different from the body, all these kinds of questions then you ask. And once you start getting into the depth of it, you will get more and more attracted to it. That is the way Prabhupada also brought that feeling. And if you look at the overall relationship of Krishna as well as Arjuna, what is the here what it brings about? The relationship between Krishna and Arjuna, in several ways, through the themes of devotion, selfless action, and the importance of a spiritual guide, is brought about in this particular, the way the relationship evolves in the Bhagavad Gita, is that without a spiritual guru, it becomes very, very difficult for you to go forward in your journey, in your spiritual progress. And Krishna was the spiritual guru for Arjuna here. And he provided him with the knowledge and wisdom needed to navigate his duties and spiritual path. Like that, of course, you also have to get attached to a self-realized soul who has seen and experienced this, and he can therefore guide you in your spiritual journey. and of course with the association of devotees around you, and the experiences that they share and the problems that they have in their spiritual journey also helps you. You get certain inputs from them, because they also go through the same challenges that you and me go through when they try to accept this particular philosophy or this particular path. And there may be certain complex things in the Bhagavad Gita also, depending on which stage of your life you are, for you to understand these aspects. But as I said, if you sum up in this particular verse, between sannyasa, complete renunciation, and devotion with work, what is better? You will, of course, Krishna will give the answers in the second or the other verses, but it's finally, of course, concluded at the end that work with devotion and not looking at the results of your actions will definitely benefit you in your journey towards your spiritual growth, and that is the way you should try to get the essence of what this particular verse talks about. And if you look at Arjuna's dilemma itself, where he is asking this question, it represents a universal human struggle. He is torn between his duty as a warrior and his personal feelings of compassion and morality, reflecting the common human experience of facing difficult choices, which we'll be facing day in and day out. There is no way that you can, get away from this. And, this concept of detachment, which is vairagya, and even, which is also spoken of as yukta vairagya, is central to the teachings on karma yoga. And this confusion to clarity, how it happened, Arjuna initially started in a state of confusion and despair, which basically each of us has. But through Krishna's guidance, Arjuna moved from confusion to clarity, illustrating how seeking wisdom and guidance can lead to personal growth and understanding. So this is what we need to do, is that firstly, decide on a path, then put your heart and soul into the path, do your worldly activities. Whenever you come in a situation where you have to take difficult decisions, take the decisions which will enable you to follow the path of devotion. That is more important. And see what all things that you can do and with whom you can associate, which will ensure that you remain in that particular process rather than, you're out of the process. Because the more these particular things take some time, it will not be quick results. Today it happened, tomorrow something, will give you the result. It will be slow and steady, but the results will be more fruitful for you. This journey will give you a lot of satisfaction, and that's why keep yourself, follow your path of devotion, do your service day in and day out, and see how you can slowly cultivate your mind by chanting with dedication, doing meditation, and all those other aspects to increase your focus, which will obviously help you to overcome all the obstacles that you will incur day in and day out, whether it be disease, relationships, or any other bad energies that will keep away from you the more and more you practice. So with that, I would like to end this session. Many thanks for listening. If you have any comments or questions, more than welcome to answer. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Sure.
First of all, thank you, Prabhu, for the lecture. I found it funny because I was just reading was just starting the 5th canto, and Priya Vrata is, of course, in there. You just mentioned, and now I'm on the story of Rishabdev, and I read. Well, you know what he did, of course, when he renounced the family life and all, and that's a little bit, of course, far out what he did. But could you say maybe a little bit about the sannyas and all? Because what he did, is of course, now to describe that, I wouldn't want to do that, but
See, It's very important question about sannyas, because it's always said, as per, of course, our varnashram and all, there is a specific age that you normally, you start with brahmacharya, then you get into the grahastha ashram, go through certain experiences for you, therefore, to be able to, because once it always is very, very challenging if you don't go through a grahastha ashram to curb certain emotions within you. So it's always good to have certain experience, because human nature is, you once you put your hand into the fire, then only know it singes you. Because you tell somebody, kid, don't put your hand in the fire, still the child may go and touch the fire. But once he gets himself affected by it, then he is aware of it, and therefore he will avoid it. So therefore it's good to go through sometimes the grihastha life, and then of course you have to, after that, having experienced grihastha life, you have to go to the vanaprastha life. That means keep away or get away from all this normal grihastha activities that you do, to detach yourself. And then you take sannyasa, which is complete renunciation, is what people talk about. But as I said, Srila Prabhupada was very practical. He said that for him, according to him, renunciation was how you can do all your worldly activities but in the service of Krishna. And that way you are trying to renunciate yourself from all the other material activities which are not related to Krishna. That in a way maybe could cover, broadly, if you look at sannyasa as a definition, is renunciation from everything. Whereas here it is a modified form of sannyasa for us, is renunciation from all material activities that are not related to Krishna. That would be the ideal way of looking at renunciation and sannyasa for us, I should say.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Hat den tatsächlich mal alleine getragen. Ich glaube, die Winter.
Ja?
Ja. Das heißt.
Frag mal Hamster bestimmt.
Ja, okay.
Hier so ein alte Kreuz.
Ja, überleg mal, der hat Liegestütze auf.
Nicht so wie wir Hänflinge. Was?
Ja. Der hat Liegestütze so gemacht, so 2 Finger machen sie.
Echt?
Ja, aber jetzt macht er jetzt nicht mehr, der hat sich die Handgelenk wieder gut. Oder ein Handgelenk gebrochen. Also ich weiß nicht, ob es dabei passiert ist, aber das ist schon heavy. Also Liegestütze auf 2 Finger ist schon crazy.